If you're watching this video, I'm almost certain that your life is so much better compared to 60 to 70% of the population. Even if you don't feel like it, you are privileged to a certain extent. Mas mapalad ka sa nakararami sa ating kababayan. There are many families in our country who only eat 1 or 2 meals a day. They live in shanties that could hardly be called a home. Small children suffer from chronic diseases that are preventable, but with the lack of access to clean water, sanitation, even to primary health care, they suffer from diseases needlessly. Many have no jobs. Some are pushed into a life of crime just to survive. Some are in constant conflict with the law. It is so easy to become oblivious to the condition of the people who are less privileged than we are. We tend to be absorbed by our own concerns, that we pay no attention to those who may be in more desperate situations. Perhaps it may help us to think that the gospel that we receive and that we preach has so much to say about addressing the condition of the poor and the helpless. The prophet Isaiah has prophesied the coming of the Messiah hundreds of years before Jesus walked on the earth. And when he spoke of what the Messiah was called to do, this is what he relayed directly from God. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to those who are bound. Truth be told, a lot of news that we hear are not neutral. News would almost always favor one group of people compared to the rest, or sometimes at the expense of another. Jesus came to the world to proclaim what he described to be good news. It was not neutral. It favored a particular group of people, the poor, the brokenhearted, the captives, and to those who were bound in prison. Because the coming of Jesus meant that the fate of these people were about to change. The poor were no longer to remain poor. The brokenhearted would be bound up. The captives would be freed. Those in prison would be set free. That is indeed good news. Because the good news, or the gospel, is all about the coming of the Messiah, the King of Israel, the one to whom all authority in heaven and on earth is given. And he has come to launch his rule. And he will come back to complete his takeover. And he has promised that when he comes, he will set right everything that's wrong in the world. And while we await his return, we who claim to follow Jesus are called upon to participate in this project. We are to be involved in the world so that the good news that Jesus declared would indeed be proclaimed all over the world in word and in deed. So we are to help the poor be restored into a life of dignity. We are to come to the aid of the brokenhearted. We are to help those who are unjustly held captive, like those held in involuntary servitude, those who are forced into prostitution, victims of human trafficking. We are to help set them free. We must bring justice to people who have been unlawfully held in prison, ensure that the innocent find justice. And as we do this, know that we are doing the mission of the Messiah. If you do these things in his name, the Lord's name will be praised. As we learn to become more compassionate to the poor and the marginalized in society, keep in mind, faith matters too.